fan of tarot reader, so of course I had to see and review the new movie Tarot. Let's get into it. So the movie starts off with a group of teens drinking outside of the Airbnb that they rented for their friend's birthday party. And I am so happy because there are several people of color in the friend group. I'm like, thankfully. They eventually run out of beer, so they head inside to see if there's any more. So when they open up the fridge, they only see that there's one can left. And instead of like going with like a smart option, like ordering beer to where they're at or driving to a store nearby, they're like, no, we're not gonna do that. They say F that, and we're gonna search within this house to see if there's any more beer left. So while they're like searching in the home, they come across this room that has a sign that says private, keep out. So you would assume like, okay, this is not my home. This is an Airbnb that we rented. Let's leave this room alone. No. The Chad of the group decides that he's gonna bust open the door, and as soon as they walk in, they see that there's a bunch of different divination tools and like other spooky stuff. So of course they start touching stuff and like messing around with things. So there's a tarot reader in the group, and she decides that she's not only going to take cards but also touch cards that aren't hers. And she like, no real tarot reader is doing that at all. So while she's holding the card, she even tells her friends like it's bad luck to use somebody else's tarot deck. So the birthday girl is like, please do a reading for me, and she's like, no girl. And then the friend is like, it's my birthday. And then she's like, all right girl, I'll do a reading. Like, what? You just said that it was bad luck to use somebody else's deck. It took no true convincing at all. And not only does she agree to do the reading for the birthday girl, she agrees to do the reading for everybody in the group. I'm like, at this point, y'all just deserve to die. Just like literally at this point. During the readings, the tarot reader, she's just saying like generic, basic, surface level stuff about tarot, zodiac signs, Mercury retrograde, and like they're eating it up. And to me, she sounded like a total scam, but I digress. While doing her ex-boyfriend's reading, things get awkward because like in the middle of the reading, he starts to come for her. And I'm like, so we're just like berating each other now at this point? Like, it was so weird. He ends up getting the devil card as his overall energy for the reading. And she tells him that he's gonna have to make a sacrifice or risk losing somebody important to him. So he just ends up storming off because he doesn't want to hear any more of this stuff. And then she decides that she's gonna do her own reading, and her friends are like, what do the cards say for you, girl? And she goes the same thing that it always does, that love is gonna be the death of me. I'm like, girl, bye. Like, stop it. I know the name of the movie's Tarot, but they should have kept the original title, which was Horoscopes, because they keep talking about horoscopes. I'm like, why didn't you guys just stick with it? Who knows? So the squad doesn't know this, but they have been marked for death and will die in the order they received their horoscopes. Let's take it to part 2, okay? Part 2? Let's get into these deaths. So the major arcana card that they received as their overall energy for the reading is the same major arcana archetype that's going to kill them in the movie. The birthday girl is our first victim because she had her horoscope read first. So the birthday girl climbs up a ladder and she sees a bunch of like white candles, and she's like, what the hell is going on? Because this wasn't in my attic like a couple of minutes ago, even a couple of seconds ago. So she sees the high priestess card like in front of her, so she instantly knows that like she messed around by playing around with that tarot deck that she shouldn't have. She tries to get away, but the high priestess ends up impaling her with the ladder like several times until she's dead. I'm not a fan of the super quick deaths that are in this film. It just feels and looks like super cheap. So the next day, the group finds out that birthday girl is dead, and the tarot reader in the group is like truly unfazed that her friend has just died tragically. I'm like, what is going on? There's one girl who's visibly upset, and we'll call her Empathy. And Empathy is like wondering why the tarot reader isn't like as upset as she is. And the tarot reader goes, whatever was gonna happen was going to happen in regards to their friend's tragic death. I'm like, girl, you can't be my friend. I don't want that type of energy. You cannot be my friend. Then she explains like how she got into tarot because her mom was sick, and unfortunately the doctors told her like there's nothing we can do for your mom, like she's not going to like make it. She was constantly doing like readings to see if she can get another answer. And I get it. She honestly just wanted some hope because she felt like the doctors like crushed any sort of hope that she possibly could have in regards to her mother. And then she ends the conversation with empathy by saying, "You can't change fate." I'm like, what? So you're basically saying it was fated for your friend to tragically die? I'm like, girl, at this point, just process the grief already, please. I do appreciate, though, how this movie shed light on how some people misuse tarot. The purpose of tarot readings are to give you guidance, clarity, and confirmation. A real tarot reader is not going to tell you what you want to hear. A real tarot reader is going to tell you what your soul needs to hear so that you're able to grow and evolve. If you are expecting a specific outcome or have certain specific expectations when it comes to your tarot readings, then I feel like you may miss out on the guidance that is trying to be brought to your awareness. Just be open to receiving the messages your spirit guides have for you. But back to the movie, the Chad of the group is next to die. The Hermit card was the overall energy for his horoscope, so the Hermit is actually chasing after him and eventually kills him. When the group finds out that their Chad has died, there's no time to mourn because they're being questioned by the police. The police are like, "I know it's been a tough couple of days." And then Miss Tarot Reader goes, who was unfazed by their birthday girl's death. She snaps at the cops and says, "Two of our friends are dead." So she is no longer unfazed by this, y'all. And she starts to contemplate, like, why are all these tragic deaths happening within the friend group? A thought comes to her mind and she goes, "I don't believe in coincidences. I believe in fate." And now she's realizing that all these deaths are happening because of the horoscopes that she gave them. So let's take it to part 3, y'all. So now that the squad realizes that their horoscopes are coming true, they're like, hold up, we need to find an expert. And they actually do. They find a tarot reader, astrologer, who's an expert and specializes in horoscopes. Stay with me. The horoscope expert lets them know that there's been a lot of people who have died in the past due to them receiving readings from those tarot cards. So she's basically telling them, like, these tarot cards are cursed. So she tells them that the only reason why she's alive is because she never did a reading for herself. She only did readings for others, and that she's been trying to destroy this deck for like years now. She then proceeds to explain the lore of the cursed deck. An astrologer in Hungary cursed the deck in order to get revenge. The astrologer did like a dark ritual in order to bind her soul to the tarot cards. She basically cursed the cards, and anyone who receives a reading from these tarot cards are basically cursed as well. So now the squad is like, oh snap, like, we're cursed. Yeah. She tells them that they have to destroy the deck, so they're like rushing to go back to the Airbnb that they rented so they can go and destroy the cards. But unfortunately, on their way driving there, their car malfunctions. Good old Mercury retrograde. So one friend ends up freaking out because she knows she's next. She's kind of been a non-factor throughout this film. So she runs out of the car. The tarot girl like runs after her. Tarot reader, tarot girl runs after her, but she's too late because the overall energy for the non-factor was the hangman. So he ends up hanging her. So now another member of the group is like freaking out. This one is Ned from like Spider-Man. He's freaking out because he knows that he's next, and he tells the squad, like, listen, I'm out. I'm going to go back to my apartment. I'm going to lock myself in my room, and I'm going to stay there until this all blows over. And they're all like, what are you talking about? Like, what is that going to do for you? He's like, I'm out. So he storms off and he leaves them. So they're heading back to the Airbnb to try to destroy these cards. So he walks back home to his building. The Fool card was his overall energy. So when he's about to enter his building, he sees across the street that the Fool is there, and the Fool is like playing with him, and he's like, did I smoke too much weed? Am I like imagining this? No, he's not. So the Fool basically ends up trapping him in this elevator, and the last shot that we see with Ned is the Fool coming closer and him screaming, and then it just cuts to the squad. The friend with empathy comes across a website that goes, "Are you cursed?" This movie, man. So from the website Are You Cursed, they realize that they have to incinerate the cards. My thing is, y'all know you guys are cursed. Why didn't you ask the expert when you were with her, how do we destroy these cards, especially since she's been trying to destroy these cards for years? Anywho, they start to try to burn the cards. However, they notice that the cards aren't burning. So they're like, damn, what do we do now? So they call the expert and she comes through, and now she's a medium because now she's asking to speak with the spirit that is, like I told you, bound to the tarot cards. And she actually does connect with the spirit. She's basically trying to separate the spirit from the tarot cards so that they can, destroy the spirit and the cards. But as she's communicating with the spirit takes control and she starts reading the expert's horoscope, and then she eventually ends up killing the expert. So now they're like really like screwed. Let's take it to part 4. So when the horoscope expert gets killed, now everybody runs out of the room, and of course they split up. So the friend with empathy, she starts to hear the birthday girl's voice. So it's the magician, because that was her overall energy. The magician is luring her downstairs. So basically, he wants to put on a performance. He ends up trapping her in a box, and he does that magic trick where you saw somebody in half and she ends up dying. The tarot reader and her ex have like barricaded themselves in another room, and they're like, well, I guess we're next to die, because they end up hearing the girl getting saw in half. So I'm like, yeah, you guys are next. But then the tarot reader comes up with a plan, and she's like, if I'm able to read the spirit's own horoscope, maybe that might change our fate. So they're like, they have a game plan now, and they're having a sweet sentimental moment, and I'm like, oh, I think they're getting back together now. And the spirit is like, F that, and like grabs the boyfriend and interrupts that sweet sentimental moment. So now at this point the tarot reader's like, well, now my ex-boyfriend, who was about to be my new boyfriend again, is dead. So she runs out. The spirit ends up catching up with the tarot reader, and the spirit starts choking her. However, the boyfriend is not dead yet. So the boyfriend comes back and hits the spirit with some weapon that they found. So he's basically like, hurry up and go do the reading. I'll try my best to attack this spirit as best as I possibly can. Basically sacrificing himself, which was in his horoscope as well. The boyfriend gets dragged somewhere fiery. I'm assuming it's hell. So the tarot reader starts doing the spirit's reading, and she's like, girl, I know you're in pain, but being stuck in the past, that's not going to change anything. So the spirit starts choking her again. She tells the spirit, listen, it's too late. I read your cards, and you got the death card, bitch, as your overall energy, and now death is coming for your ass. Now the spirit is being pulled to the other side, and the ex is no longer being pulled to hell or wherever he was being pulled to. And he makes his way back to his ex-girlfriend, who's now probably his girlfriend again after what they just survived. And the spirit finally passes over to the other side. And the death card starts to burn, which lets us know that the curse has finally been broken. So the exes seem like they're back together, and they're walking away from the Airbnb. And as they're walking, they see a car approaching them. So it turns out it's actually Ned. And he's like, I came back to rescue you guys. They're like, how did you survive? Because we thought you died. We thought the fool card, like the fool killed you. And he was basically like, no, like I survived, which I'm like, how? But whatever. And in fairness, his horoscope did say that he was going to come through for his friends in like an unexpected way. But it is some BS that he didn't die. So Ned goes like, how do we know that like the curse is actually like has been broken? And the boyfriend goes, we changed fate. And then the tarot reader goes, no, F fate. And I was just like, really, girl? That was like your best line? Save it. I knew this movie wouldn't like give any divination practice like tarot, mediumship, like anything justice. But I was at least hoping that there would be some good scares, and I didn't get that. But I will say I definitely laughed, and I definitely enjoyed like watching some of it. I hope you guys enjoy this. Please comment down below and like the video. Also, I'm available for tarot readings, so check out your girl. Bye guys, take care.